Hey, thank you so much for joining us. It's amazing to be here at NFT.NYC, closing day, closing afternoon. We made it. We're definitely going to make it. We have made it. We're just going to start off with a little round of intros. So my name's Hollywood. I am Head of Artist Relationships at Rarible. And of course, we pride ourselves on being a multi-chain marketplace and have just launched our custom community marketplaces, which are amazing. So I will talk more about those shortly. But I'm going to pass on, and we're going to literally run down the line.
Hello, my name is Fiona Aboud. I'm a Brazilian-American artist, photographer, and educator based in East Harlem, New York. My work has always been socially engaged. I've helped support many different causes through my photography and my art. And right before getting into NFTs, I worked closely with Humanity Forward, which was the nonprofit that Andrew Yang started to help promote this idea of universal basic income in the United States, to lobby it in Congress, and then seeing the huge impact that the child tax credit had, I decided to start a project photographing families around New York, holding signs saying what they would spend universal basic income on to eliminate stigma against giving away money. People just assume people will squander it. So anyway, so that project is going to come out. I'm doing a collaboration with another artist named Doc Peace, who I know from ChangeDAO, and we're releasing it on Super Rare soon. And I am also working on another project benefiting crypto UBI, Universal Basic Income, which I can talk about a little bit more in depth later, but I have right here a little portfolio. I've been working on portraits of members of the Bored Ape Yacht Club. I bought an ape originally to make creative derivatives of myself, and I combined myself and the apes. And then I started meeting people in real life after the pandemic and asking them to participate. And the opportunity to promote these different social impact causes to members of this community that are, very vocal and are really doing amazing things in the community to help support education is just amazing. And then just lastly, I'll just say I'm working right now on a curriculum for the Board of Ed with this organization called Bronx Crypto, and we're expanding access to people in underserved communities. So
and I love this idea that you're working as an artist in collaboration. So let's definitely talk about that.
Cool, thank you.
Thanks so much. I'm so excited to share the stage with these legends and all of you who survived this week. Oh my God, a round of applause for everyone, seriously, woo! So my name, I was introduced as Aleksandra Arts. If you ever want to practice pronouncing my surname, it's Aleksandra Artamonovskaja, but Aleksandra Arts is fine. I come from sort of the domain industry, so I worked with digital artists for about 7 years now, so it was a natural transition into NFTs when they came about. I work on many different projects, and the most recent one that maybe you have heard of, it's Relief. The second E is a 3. So we launched that on the second day when the war in Ukraine broke out. It was an initiative led by Andrew Wang, together with another 5 co-founders and over 60 artists. So on the first day of the drop, the collection sold out in 30 seconds, and we raised over $1.5 million for Ukraine ever since. So it was thank you. It was a really big sort of aha moment for me to see how the Web3 community can quickly come together to create something special. And I realized that I would like to continue working in this direction of how can we come together to create a project that actually brings value to everyone. So I joined a month ago a team at Join, and that's what we're essentially exploring. Woo! My team is here. Great to see you guys. So we're creating collaboration tools for Web3 communities. So I really look forward to talking today about how can art influence social change, because that was actually my thesis 10 years ago. So I'm really happy I'm here on this topic. And also to talk a little bit more of creative collaborations and how they drive change. So without further ado, passing the word to you.
Oh, that's amazing. Great stories. So yeah, I'm very honored to be on stage with these legendary change makers and people that are doing amazing things in the space. And thank you all for coming as well. I'm David All, the founder, CEO, and a change maker at ChangeDAO. And actually, right before this, I was getting ready to mint our first artwork, which will be a poke badge. And a poke badge is, a proof of change. And it's something that you can mint for free, claim for free, if you're on the Ethereum wallet. And then you can keep that forever, and the secondary royalties will be donated to the artist that created it. And in doing that, it sort of connects all of us and you and the people on this project in a way like has never been done before. And so my background is speechwriter in the US Senate, pioneered social media and politics, and spent 20 years building digital movements. So I don't come at it from the art world perspective. I'm actually looking at this huge, huge opportunity, and it's about world changing. And so I love calling an artist a change maker, because I feel in my heart I'm a problem solver, and I always have been. We just use different tools and ways of doing it, but we always have the same mindset and the same ethos, and it's all about our personal reputations that we put on the line to help drive change forward. So thank you very much.
And I love that idea about kind of evolution, revolution, that, how they're kind of synonymous with each other. There's a couple of projects that we actually work on at Rarible. One is called Nemus, which is actually, we're all kind of super excited about all the different metaverses and interoperability between these different spaces. But actually, Nemus is actually very focused on actual physical space. So you actually buy a piece of land in the metaverse, but you're actually buying a parcel of land in the rainforest, so that you have that real practical kind of element to it as well, which I love. I think that's super cool. And then I guess kind of along that same theme around sustainability, we also have this opportunity to use a project called Nori, which is a carbon offsetting project. So whenever you mint an NFT, you have the option to kind of click an extra link and offset your collection or piece that you're collecting at the same time, which is great. So yeah, no, functionality and tools is definitely, like you were saying, Alex, in terms of what we're all building, and we're going into definitely a period of building right now. So this idea around community and how communities can gather and support each other, I'm really interested to see how a lot of us came into the space and have used kind of different tools of communication, so whether that be Clubhouse or Twitter Spaces. Alex, I'd love to ask you how you guys kind of came together as your group, and how that idea kind of was born.
Oh, thanks so much for asking. I think that, what we see generally when we talk about change and social change, we see a lot of change generally in the behavior of how the art market is functioning. Even generally the idea of what art is considered. Right now, I think it's changing a lot. And also the relationship between the artists and the collectors and collaborators. So all those different people come together almost on a pedestal where they all talk to each other through Twitter. Because let's be honest, that's where 90% of the crypto art communication is happening. So this is exactly what happened with Relief. So it was through Twitter that we all connected. We all didn't know each other, but we did meet throughout the last 4 months across the world.
Were you guys just literally chatting on DM, or were you kind of?
No, it was just an open post. So I was on the first day of war. I was in shock, and I was obviously first thing I go to Twitter to see how can I help through art and NFTs, and I saw several people tweeting about let's launch a project. So I reached out to all of them, and one of them got back, and so I was quickly part of the team. And next thing I know, I'm reaching out to artists in Ukraine. I'm reaching out to government officials in Ukraine, and trying to connect the dots so that we can actually help. But I think generally speaking, we see a lot of use case for Twitter. We see a lot of use case for Discord. There used to be Clubhouse, now it's mostly Twitter Spaces. And what's the most interesting thing we see is these tools are slowly shifting and merging around the community. So Twitter introducing the profile picture, everything else. But what's exciting is to see the tools that are Web3 native being built, especially for different use cases that might be a bit more niche. because they allow another level of creativity to be born. So that's a really interesting area for me to explore.
So that makes me think about what you're building, David, at the moment with, those tools, exactly. Tell us a little bit more about this.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, Relief is such another extraordinary example of groups of people coming together and using this powerful technology and their artwork and sharing their light, right? And an artist can share their light, and they want to use their superpower to uplift and elevate a message and make a change that way. And that's how social change art has always been a part of the culture. I mean, that is why art exists, you could say. It's certainly why graffiti exists. And so, yeah, we just tapped into that. So we're a technology company. We don't take a perspective other than what's legal in the United States and within the framework of what change is. The social change, there was like a blockchain group that chose 7 areas of social change. And so we aligned, we're like, great idea. That's how we'll categorize our areas of change. And Fiona and 6 others entered a contest to be our first 7 change makers. So for us, the problems that we saw with Relief and for an artist were really 2 big things. And it came down to, okay, I want to share my artwork, but then there's like, what do you do next? And so for us, we just, really looked at decentralization as the most important thing. And anyone can do what we've done. It's not exactly novel, but the idea of decentralization in the smart contract can allow a nonprofit or a cause or 35 artists to all be contributors and receive funding from one smart contract instead of all of the funds going into either an artist's wallet and then they're hit up with a tax hit on that and then they have to send it to an exchange and then that's another tax hit and then going to a nonprofit's website, that's another middleman. So there's that path, which is like crypto to fiat. And then the other thing that we wanted to focus on, or that has recently come up, is sort of the middleman, that trusted middleman of the financial services companies that want to take like 5% and sure, thanks for your money, and then we'll send it off to the nonprofit. And so for us, it's just about using the Ethereum blockchain and these ideas of decentralization at the maximum in every single way to meet the needs of the change makers. And I think everyone here, like, raise your hand if you feel like you've always been involved in what Martin Luther King called the struggle for freedom and justice. Yeah, I mean, half of the hands in the room went up, right? So we're all aligned in this, and I believe that we're all in it together. So we love this idea of like a cooperative, and you should explore that in what you're doing as well, how a co-op model might be the model that you've been looking for.
So then that makes me think about what you're working on, Fiona, and this really collaborative approach that you're taking. Did that just happen fairly organically, or has that really been part of your process as an artist? Is it because as a photographer, you're almost always the voyeur and you always have a subject, so it's about that conversation with your artistic approach?
Well, I think the collaboration happens on many levels. Yes, it can happen between artists, and I'm part of this other generative NFT project with 50 other artists called Kindred Hearts, and it's also for social change, but they took aspects of different artists and kind of put them through the generator, and there's like an amazing collaborative collection example. But then in terms of like social impact NFTs, for instance, a project supporting crypto UBI, it will support a community directly, and they can get like airdrops, like updates from the community, and find out like the utility of the art becomes the social utility, and like this idea, instead of a big party, they get updates to see how many people are receiving UBI, like what they're buying, like how it's impacting that community, and I think that collaboration between the community and the art is really powerful.
And you have all the tools that you need to actually be able to do that right here and right now, or are you building?
It's all in the smart contract, and it's all on blockchain. I mean, it's just amazing what information we can get super easily, super quickly. I did a lot of international fundraising prior to crypto, and getting the funds in the right places is just impossible. It takes a while, and it's centralized. So it keeps with the decentralization, this collaboration in terms of it will go to multiple sources, and it's not controlled by any one
I love that. I think I love these kind of like the roots of, us like honoring what the blockchain is and can do. And I know, Alex, when you were working on your relief project, you actually worked with the Giving Block. I just wanted to give that project a shout out because they are incredible.
Actually, no.
Oh, okay.
I worked with the Giving Block last year because we onboarded PETA. To Giving Block, and we did a charity collection, but it was a separate project I worked on. For the Ukraine case, it wasn't efficient because we wanted to donate the projects that were on the ground immediately, and for someone to get onboarded to Giving Block, it takes a little bit of time. So we had to act from like more urgency. But I think now there are a ton of international donations that go directly through the Giving Block, but because at the time it was mostly just foreign companies, not local, so that's why we didn't go for that.
So for context, the Giving Block is essentially an incredible Web3 project that essentially is a tool that has been created for hundreds, or I think they maybe even have thousands of charities now that actually use them.
Yeah, there's definitely over 1,000 by now.
And what I really liked about it is that you can essentially, you don't have to know exactly which charity you want to donate to. You might have just a specific cause, for instance. But it essentially means that the charities are able to take crypto donations.
Yeah, they had an event in Super Chief last night there was a show. So the whole team was there.
Very good. David, we're going to come back to you.
Okay, yeah. Hey, how are you?
I'm just wondering about like what's coming up next for you, because Alex actually said every time I say building, she's going to actually make a little
Yes.
building bingo.
We're also building. Our team is all building right now as we speak. They're in their laptops. There they are.
Oh, nice. Look at these
But I love the way that David was literally building live. I was like, you can do your minting live on stage if you want to.
David was like in the speaker's room. He's like, okay, see you guys on the stage. And he's like on his laptop building.
It's like never stop. I'm just glad people get to go to parties and stuff like that. It makes me feel better that my team is doing that, so I don't have to, But yeah, my shirt says good things take time. And so we're a 100% independent marketplace, bootstrapped, straight up. And we've got about 35 people that have helped build it, make it happen. And for me as a change maker, and I'm sure some of you could relate, it always feels kind of lonely. And sometimes almost like a shooting star. Like try to describe a shooting star to someone. It's really difficult, but you're like, no, I saw it was there, right? But there's no proof. And so for me, like in all of my years of change making, 5.5 years working with the Ohio State University on a scientific paper that was published, and I'm a co-author, and then, their press team, their comms people just put all these things out that don't even include me, and I felt edited out of the story, even though I started it. And that can feel really bad, even though I didn't ask for the hundreds of millions of dollars that came from funding and stuff. In fact, I didn't ask for anything, except maybe a little bit of recognition. And so for me, the only important thing that matters for us is a change maker. So we curate change makers because we believe there's a difference between light and evil and darkness. And so for us, we want to make sure that it's good people. And we don't have a directory of causes. Like you're not going to find thousands of causes on ChangeDAO. Because for us, we want our change makers to curate that, right? We're creating this curation model for the Web3 social impact world. And maybe it's a nonprofit, but maybe it's also something like Relief, which is probably not a nonprofit, or at least probably going through paperwork and stuff like that. But maybe it's also like Black Lives Matter, or an organization that doesn't have a leader, like Free Rostau. Or maybe it's just like 30 artists, that you want to uplift as part of a movement. And so, yeah, I guess what's coming next is like you are. And like whatever it is that you're bringing to this Web3 folktale, like a stone soup, whatever the light that you're bringing to this change making is, like, yeah, we want to support that. And we're going to make it as easy as possible for you to do it with the lowest possible fees so that there's enough to go around with your team. And you can insert them into the story, and they can be recognized forever. So like I said, there were like 35 of us that started this thing. Every single one of those people is going to be a part of receiving the mint sales for our Genesis drop next week. Forever and ever, permanent mint sales on primary, but also sold on Rarible, on secondary, forever. And that recognizes them in the history of our history. And I get to write that, and that's a deep privilege and a responsibility, and I don't take it lightly.
I was just going to say, Alex, we touch on kind of secondary royalties quite a bit. And I think I can imagine for a project like a sort of, a charitable cause, for instance, that must, the impact of that and that legacy must be, it felt even more acutely. Was that something that you guys were really conscious of when you were like developing what the, the structure of the project?
Yeah, it was always a debate, like how high the royalty should go, because on one hand, you want to get as much as possible. What's the right way? So actually, there was so much speculation on the first drop that a lot of art that there was first of all a lot raised through the secondary sales, but second of all, most of the artists just waived their secondary royalties towards the cause. But I just wanted to go back to like good things take time. And like the topic of the conversation today is driving social change through NFTs. And I think what a lot of builders and founders share is that they are sort of there in the future, and there's this like level of frustration about other people not seeing that path that leads there, and sort of like you're talking about the vision, and in your mind you know how to get to that vision, but then when you talk to your audience, people don't really understand because there's a certain level of complexity. And I think that for all of us here, and I think like generally being in this space and pushing it forward, maybe disregarding the flippers and like some of the degens, I think like it's a really big responsibility. And some people were telling me, like, I had lunch today, and they're saying, well, Alex, like, why do people say JPEGs are NFTs? And I'm like, well, we're just kidding around, But then I started thinking, like, it is true. Like, it's up to us. Like, do we want to have fun, or do we actually want to onboard more people and for more people to understand that actually JPEGs are not NFTs? That, like, there's a difference. And I think it's a matter of all of us sort of working together to make that change happen. And only then we can truly see, like, a big social change happening. Because whatever we do now, we will see results in a year, in 3 years, in 5 years' time. So if someone's frustrated that now immediately they're not getting results, we'll get there eventually, but it's going to take time.
Yeah, and I think I was at VCon recently, and like, for instance, one of the very last things Gary Vee said on stage was like, VFriends is like my lifelong project, and it was kind of like, okay, that's actually a massive statement.
It's like Beanie saying, oh, I'm going to dedicate my life's work to pumping that.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge. And Fiona, I just want to switch back to you for a second and just ask, in terms of your, your journey as an artist, are you kind of like consciously taking this direction now, or are you kind of like going to have it as like an integrated part, or is it really like actually driving your kind of like decision making around the type of work that you want to create now? Is it kind of like subject before process, I guess?
Yeah, well, my work's always been socially involved, and this kind of helped just level up the specificness of it, and like the integration of the art with the social cause in a way that has never been able to be possible before. I mean, sure, you can email a bunch of people, but a Web3 just makes it so easy to interact with, to tell the story of what's going on with the money that you spent on this NFT. And then it can keep funding future projects and future impacts in different communities. So yeah, I would say my name will forever be synonymous with UBI and like financial inclusion. I mean, 750 million people live on $2 or less a day. I mean, that number is still staggering. And with Web3, we can completely eliminate that and bring people up and help everyone. So
I'm going to kind of start wrapping it up a little bit. I know we're on a super tight schedule, but I really would love to just go around. And David, if you're happy to share your Twitter handle or however you want people to find you.
Amazing. Yeah, so you can follow David All on Twitter or changedao.org. I also have a few badges. We're going to be minting this as soon as I go back to my hotel. And you can download it for free, mint it for free on the Ethereum blockchain as an ER721 at changedao.org. Thanks a lot.
Alex, your Twitter.
So my name is spelled Aleksandra, but instead of X, it's KS. Aleksandra Arts. And if you Google that, you'll see my Twitter, because my Twitter handle is, like, it's one of those cases when you register as a kid and then you're too lazy to change and then it's impossible to pronounce. So better to just search for me. Yeah. But you just can come up to me and chat to me after the talk. Yeah.
And mine is Fiona, Fiona, Aboud, Aboud. Thank you so much.
And I'm simply Hollywood NFTs on everything.
I love it.
Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. Hollywood's not such an easy handle to get, so it's Hollywood NFTs. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you so much to Lex.
Thank you.
I appreciate you hosting all day.